Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It is super helpful. It's been a while since I've done a pickups video. I've been to a lot of conventions, but I haven't done a pickups video recently, so I thought I would show you guys a collection I brought recently from a friend. 76 games for the NES, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, and PlayStation 2. He was ready he wasn't like a super big time collector. He just loved to play video games, and he had quite a few games in his collection. He just weeded out what he no longer wanted to play. And I told him, you know, I'm a reseller, but I also want some of these for my collection. He contacted me. He said, man, I just don't want these games anymore. Don't have room for them. I don't want to really play them anymore. So I thought, you know, you might be interested. And I said, sure. And I said, you know, just one caveat. That I would be reselling some of those, and he said it's perfectly fine. He didn't care. He just wanted them out of his house, and he actually told me what he wanted for them, and it was a fair price. As a matter of fact, it was a little too fair, and I actually paid him more than he offered because he's a good friend of mine, and I wanted to be fair. And so I will tell you guys exactly what I paid for this collection at the end of the video. So let's show you some of these games. I won't go into each game in thorough detail, but I want to point out, you know, spotlight a few. I will talk about some of them. We'd be here all day if I, you know, went into depth about all 76, but let's talk about some highlights and just some ones that might pique you guys' interest. So let's check these out. And I'm going to go in chronological order. I'll show you guys the NES games first, then Super NES, then PlayStation, and then PS2. I got some really interesting PS2 titles that you guys are going to check out, and you're going to want to know what I paid for all this stuff. So hang tight and let's check out this new pickups video. All right, NES. Let's start off with Contra. Just an incredible game, and as you guys know, I beat this back in the day without the famous Konami code. I played it just incredible amount of time, and I miss those days of being able to devote this much time to video games. But anyway, great game. Still love to play it to this day, Contra. I do have the game, obviously. I got a boxed copy, so I will be selling that one. Next up is Galaga Demons of Death, another game I have, but it's an excellent port of Galaga. The Demons of Death was just sort of thrown in by the marketing people, I suppose. Or maybe the person that programmed the game thought Demons of Death sounded cool, but I figure it's probably the marketing person. But it is a fantastic, just arcade accurate port of the phenomenal classic Galaga. And Galaga is a game that I own a stand-up arcade cabinet, and I own most of the ports. And I do have this game, so another one I will be reselling. Snake's Revenge for the NES, stealth classic. Star Wars. Now back in the day, I played this quite a bit, even though it wasn't a great game, but, you know, it's not bad. It does a solid job of, you know, paying homage to Star Wars A New Hope, as the kids are calling it these days. But I remember drawing maps for this game and having a good time playing it. Good action-adventure title. Solid game. Not great, but solid. Spider-Man Return of the Sinister Six. Sadly, the only Spider-Man game for the NES, strangely enough. Blades of Steel, one of the most iconic sports games for the NES. This copy is pretty rough, so it might go for a couple of bucks. I don't know. It's a common game, but it's a fantastic game. If someone is just wanting a playable copy, I, of course, have this game because I absolutely love it. This and Double Dribble, I played more than any other sports games on the NES. Amazing. The Adventures of Bayou Billy, kind of a challenging game. Great action-adventure title. Another one I'll be reselling because I own that one. Got a pretty big collection of NES games. Next up is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Now, objectively, this is a great game, but I never really warmed up to it. It's not my favorite boxing game. I prefer just basic slugfest. But anyway, you guys know this is a legendary title for the NES, one of the most iconic for the console. Next up is Joust, and what's interesting about this, it is a solid arcade port, a very good one in fact, and I do play it, even though I have a perfectly emulated version of Joust, the arcade version. Fantastic game. It's one of the few retro titles I can still beat my son at because he's gotten so freaking good at games now that he's well into his mid-20s. Joust, amazing game. And this actually has a musical intro that you won't find in the arcade version. Pretty wild. Wizards and Warriors, pretty cool to add that game to my collection. I don't currently own that one. Rampage, another game I know objectively good, but I never really warmed up to it. I was never a huge fan of Rampage. There was just something off about the controls, and it just didn't seem, if you could just, just flat out destroy buildings in just more of a exciting fashion. I don't know, it's just a little slow and the controls just seem a little clunky to me. I know a lot of people love this game, and let me know in the comments where I went wrong with Rampage. I know it's a solid game, and the creator of the arcade classic, Brian F. Collin, great guy, good friend of mine. Ninja Gaiden, holy cow, this is another one of those games I spent an incredible amount of time with back in the day. I never beat this one. I beat Contra, but I actually think Ninja Gaiden is a harder game than Contra, but solid game, amazing game actually, a ton of fun. I do have my well-worn copy, so I might replace it with this one. Next up is Arkanoid. Now, you guys know this comes with a Voss controller, V-A-U-S, a paddle controller, a rotary controller that was sort of similar to the old Atari 2600 controllers, but I asked my friend I bought it from if he has the controller, and he doesn't know what happened to it, which is a shame because it's rare and hard to find. Now, I do have the boxed copy of Arkanoid with the controller in game, so I will be reselling this, but amazing port, Arkanoid. One of the most arcade perfect ports on the NES, in fact. Monster Party. This is cool. I wish I had this one in the box because I love the box art so much, but it's cool to add the cartridge to my collection. I definitely have played this a lot, but I don't own the game, but it was a great rental back in the day and a cool game, so I'm glad to have that in my collection. Oh my gosh. Guys, Batman has seen its better days. Amazing game, one of the 100 greatest console video games, in my opinion, from 1988 to 98, as you guys will see in my forthcoming book. Love me some Batman. Metal Gear, another stealth classic. So I got Metal Gear and Snake's Revenge in this collection, pretty cool. Next up is RC Pro-Am, very fun racing game. Awesome stuff here. All right, guys, now we're on to the Super Nintendo. Got another hockey game here. Hit the Ice. Pretty solid, pretty cool. Oh my gosh, Captain America and the Avengers. Now the Sega Genesis version is awesome. Wonderful, wonderful game, and I have a boxed complete copy of that. Captain America and the Avengers for the Super Nintendo, on the other hand, is difficult. It's not a great game. It's far worse. I love the Sega Genesis version, but the Super Nintendo version, just not amazing. That's too bad that Super Nintendo owners got the raw deal. It's interesting to compare a lot of the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo games. A lot of them are very similar, of the same titles. A lot of them vary greatly, and you guys definitely want to stick with the Sega Genesis version. All right, next up, we've got The Lion King for the Super Nintendo. Phenomenal game that I spent a ton of time with. And some of these games based on animated films are shockingly difficult. I never beat The Lion King. The second level alone was hard enough to get by. I did get by it, but I never completed the game, even though I played it a lot back in the day. Oh, and a roughed up copy of Separation Anxiety. I'll resell that one for pretty cheap. I don't typically keep really rough games unless they're just breathtakingly rare. Indiana Jones Greatest Adventures, pretty cool. I will add that one to my collection because I don't currently own a copy of it. And X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. It's superhero games are hit and miss, but I like to collect them. So I will add that one to my collection because I don't currently own it. And check it out, Super Castlevania 4 in this plastic case. Apparently somebody paid $55 for this at some point, or at least something that came in this case, I don't know. I do have a complete copy in a real box, so I will resell this one. But this one appears to be in really nice shape. Wow, it's even got the little dust cover there. The cartridge is in excellent condition. The manual is in sharp shape, so I will probably sell it with this case. So that'll be a nice little resell there. Next up, PlayStation, PS1. Got some really good games in this collection, including Spider-Man 2. Now, when the first Spider-Man game came out, I was completely blown away. It was the first Spider-Man game that truly made you feel like the webbed wonder. You could actually feel like you were, going about the city on your web, swinging about. Really, really cool. You could whip your way around As you guys know from the comics, thwip was a very common onomatopoeia. I believe that's the name of that kind of word. Anyway, Spider-Man 2, really great game, as well as Spider-Man 1. I believe I have a copy of Spider-Man 2, so I'll be reselling that one. Bug's Life, never played this one, so I'll check it out. May or may not resell it. I may keep it. We'll see. Sled Storm, another one I'll try out before I resell it. Never played that one. Next up is Soul Blade. Pretty cool, but that part is missing. Oh well. Can't win them all. Next up is Star Wars Masters of Terras Kasi, or however you say that. Never played that one, so I'll check it out. Next up is Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles. Freaking cool. Superhero games, Star Wars games, I love adding those to my collection. Next up is Disney's Toy Story 2. Now, back in the day when I wrote for the All Game Guide, I actually reviewed Toy Story 2 on the Nintendo 64. They sent me a copy of it, but I had to send it back, unfortunately. Only ever got to keep a couple of the games that the All Game Guide sent me. I started writing for them in late 97, and I wrote for them for a few years, and they were sending me brand new games for the PS1, Nintendo 64, the PC, and some other systems. And yeah, I did review N64 version, so I will be checking out the PS1 version. It's pretty cool. Jet Moto, a very popular title. Got the greatest hits version here, looks like. So, pretty cool. Next up is Dino Crisis. This was really exciting release when it came out because not only is it, got dinosaurs, it's from the creators of Resident Evil. Pretty great. I remember a lot of gamers been excited about that title. Next up is Medieval 2. One I've never played, so I'll be checking that one out. One thing I've got a decent PS1 collection, but one thing cool about this collection that I bought, there's a number of titles I don't own. Now this next one, Resident Evil 2, man, I played a lot of Resident Evil 2 back in the day. In fact, I reviewed the Nintendo 64 version of Resident Evil 2 for the All Game Guide, and I found the game to be amazing. And to this day, this is my second favorite Resident Evil after Resident Evil 4 for the GameCube. So pretty cool to add the PlayStation version to my collection. I already have the N64 version. Next up, Marvel Superheroes. I do own a copy of this game. This is an awesome fighting game, and these were really pretty sought after by the collecting community, and they still are, but these hit peak prices, I believe, a few years ago. I'm not sure what the price, if the prices of the Marvel fighting games on the PS1, if those, in Capcom and everything, like Marvel versus Capcom. Some of these games, I haven't really compared prices recently to a few years ago. I imagine they've kept their price pretty good. Maybe they've gone up. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of these Marvel fighting and Capcom fighting games for the PS1. Next up is Metal Gear Solid VR missions on the PS1. Another stealth classic. And next up is the original Spider-Man for the PS1. Obviously, I already have this one, so I'll be reselling this copy to some lucky Spider-Man fan because this game holds up well. Now, there have been some much better Spider-Man games like Spider-Man for the PS4. You guys know that's a great game, but this is still a solid choice for retro gamers, in particular. Yeah, PS1 is definitely a retro console at this point, I believe. All right, guys, next up is PS2, the PlayStation 2, my favorite modern console of all time. I'm often asked what my favorite game system is of all time, and I always say, man, I've got two choices, ColecoVision for nostalgia's sake, and I still love to play it as well, but PS2 is my favorite modern system. Some people consider it retro at this point, but man, when you're throwing down on some God of War or some Maximo, it still feels pretty modern with the great 3D graphics and the awesome hack and slash gameplay. It's got some great arcade compilations and on. It's just an amazing system. PS2, and I love that it's backwards compatible with the PS1. Great system. So let's get to it. A big stack of PS2 games to round out this video, and again at the end I will tell you guys what I paid for this collection. Next up, Tekken 4 for the PS2. Now guys, I have this game and played it a ton back in the day, and I almost always chose a certain fighter by the name of Christy that you might know. Christy Monteiro. Absolutely love this character. I loved playing as her. I just loved her fighting moves. So much fun. Tekken 4. And I definitely have that in my collection, as well as Tekken Tag Tournament. So I will be reselling these. Next up is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I played this one quite a bit on the Xbox. Fun game. Next up, Metal Gear Solid 3 for the PS2. Man, I suddenly have a Metal Gear Solid, or a Metal Gear collection. Pretty cool. Now, what could this be? Let's see. Oh no. Matrix, The Path of Neo, very common game. So, whatever. All right, next up, NHL 2002. Okay, it looks like my friend who I bought this collection from was a hockey fan. As far as sports go, he seems to lean that way. Next up, 007 Nightfire. Probably check that one out before I resell it. Next up, Mercenaries, a game I haven't played, but obviously very popular. It's got the greatest hits iteration there. Here's one I'm not too familiar with. Bujangai, The Forsaken City. Be interesting to check that one out. Next up is Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. Now, I did buy this for like $5 back in the day. I found it used. I can't even remember where I bought it, but I got it dirt cheap. It might have been after, like a couple of years after it came out at GameStop or something, but I thought it was okay. Next up, Burnout Revenge. I'm a huge fan of the Burnout games. I love that you race and crash into other vehicles for points. It is an awesome series, and Burnout Revenge is definitely a great game. I've already got it, but whatevs. The Punisher. I love collecting superhero games, so it'll be nice to add this one to my collection. Next up is Rocky. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Rocky series 1 through 4. I didn't like 5. I thought it was pretty bad, but I absolutely love the original Rocky 1 through 4. Just super fun and even inspirational movies, and there's so much. 1 is a legit classic, and 2 is a classic as well. 3 and 4 are just plain simple, a lot of fun. So it's cool to have Rocky on the PS2. I will definitely be happy to add this to my collection because I'm a big fan of the IP. Next up is Van Helsing, and I do like me some vampires, so we'll check that one out. I don't remember that game getting very good reviews, but you can let me know in the comments. Next up is Dragon Ball Z, Budokan 3. That will likely be a pretty quick resell. Not really into that IP too much. Devil May Cry 3. I loved the Devil May Cry trilogy on the PS2. Just really fascinating collection with wonderful graphics, great atmospheric games. I do have that trilogy already, and so I will definitely be reselling these 3 games because I have got wonderful copies of those. I played the heck out of them, but I made sure to take really good care of them. I love that series. Now, do you guys remember when Destroy All Humans came out? I was intrigued by this, and I thought about picking it up, but I never did. So it'll be awesome to try this on the PS2. So that should be interesting. Next up is Spider-Man 2, a terrific title for the PlayStation 2. I love this game, already have it, so that will be a resell. Next up, Sly 2, Band of Thieves. Pretty cool. That's a classic for sure. Next up is Predator Concrete Jungle. Now, whether this game is good or not, I will probably I'll try it out and I'll keep it in my collection whether it's good or not, because that's a cool looking cover and I do like the IP. Next up, yet another Metal Gear game. This guy loved hockey and Metal Gear games. Next up is Ghost Rider. Never played this one. I will probably check it out, and I'll probably keep it in my collection because I do like collecting superhero games. Even though not a lot of them are super great, some of them are pretty bad, but some of them are pretty darn awesome. Soul Calibur 3, very cool. I really enjoy the Soul Calibur series, dating all the way back to the original on the Dreamcast. Soul Calibur 2. All right, next up is a game I'm definitely familiar with, as I'm familiar with all these pretty much. You guys can pronounce this for me. Katamari Damacy. Okay, I guess it wasn't that hard, but anyway, I've heard about this game but never played it, so that'll be interesting to check out. Next up, a very iconic game, Jak and Daxter for the PS2. Obviously, I already own that one. I love this game. The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. I first played this over at a friend's house. We went over there to watch a football game, and I ended up playing some video. I got distracted from the football game by going and playing some video games with the kids. What can I say? And I love this game. Already have it. Madden. Madden will do what Madden does, and that's some football. Next up, Zone of the Enders, a game I haven't played. Not sure if I'll check it out or not. Let me know in the comments if I should. X-Men Legends 2. I really enjoyed this game back in the day. I already have a copy, so I'll be reselling that. Same with X-Men Legends. Ooh, this is cool. I have played this game, War of the Monsters. Really cool fighting game there. And I will hang on to this copy. I enjoy it, but I don't own it. Next up is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. Now, I'm a big fan of the Tony Hawk games, and I have quite a few of them. I don't remember off the top of my head if I own this one currently. I do a lot of buying, selling, and trading, a lot of that kind of stuff, but I'll check it out. This isn't the greatest copy. It's kind of wrinkled up, so I'll resell it regardless. Some people just want the game to play, and I'll happy to sell it for them, or to sell it to them. Tekken 5, very cool. And we're getting down to it, guys, and I've saved the last two. I didn't really put these in much of an order except by console, but I did want to save my two most interesting PS2 pickups for the last. Now this one, because I remember back in the day seeing this at GameStop, you know, a while after it came out, and it really got expensive, and I never did pick it up, so I'm really glad to add this one to my collection. I'm excited about that. I have played it. It is a lot of fun. And this is a title I've always wanted in my collection but have never owned. That is Ultimate Spider-Man, so pretty cool. I do like collecting superhero games. All right, guys, let's get to what I paid for this collection. It's a friend of mine, so I didn't want to lowball him too much, and he actually presented the offer to me, $200, and I thought that was fair for both parties. I'll get my money back and a little more than that, and I'll also add some games to my collection pretty much for free because I can. You know, I'll cherry pick what I want to keep. I showed you guys some of the titles I'm going to be keeping, and I will sell the rest and at least break even. So I'll pretty much add games to my collection for free. I'll take these to shows or whatever. All right, there you go, guys. 76 games for $200. Solid. You know, it felt fair. You know, if this would have been a stranger, I might have maybe said 150 because a lot of these games are common. A lot of these games I already have. Some of the games are a little worn out, but you know, selling my duplicate copies of like Star Wars and Contra and some of the others, that'll easily get me a couple of $100, and I can add some really cool stuff to my collection. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments if you want to see more pickup videos. I do a lot of shows, and I do pick up, you know, stuff here and there. I don't buy as much stuff as a lot of my retro gaming friends. Partly because I already own a lot of what I want. But I do pick up games from time to time, and I'll pick up some modern stuff. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more pickup videos. I would love to hear about you. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more pickup videos. And also let me know in the comments what was your favorite game, or at least a game that really stood out to you from these pickups. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate it. We will talk to you in another video.